Oh, good morning. Oh, excuse me. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when this finds you. Just want to talk a little bit today. Want to talk about economic systems and slavery, and it's going to be a little bit longer than I believe than the ones I've been releasing lately. I am gonna reference. I'm just gonna pretty much talk, and I'm gonna reference some books that I've read, and I did write down some of the points I wanted to take out of a few of those books. So that's pretty much about the only thing I'll be reading during this video. Like I said, I'm just gonna be talking here because you don't make lies the truth. And let me back up. Hope you're having a good day. Hope you had a great day, or hope you're preparing to have a great day. But you don't make lies truth. You make lies believable. See, this whole country, this whole system is nothing but a well-constructed system of lies. R&B group Maze and Frankie Beverly has a song titled "Love is the Key." And the hook in that song is, if you really want to be free, love is the key. And you see, since Europeans came here, love has been absent. Love is absent all over the world. And guess what? Europeans have colonized all of those places. See, their keys, I guess I should say, is exploitation and greed. Now, not all of them, but the ones who control and run the system they created and have passed the thought process down to subsequent generations. Before I really get off into that, when I talk about Europeans, many of us have heard of Frank and Jesse James. And Jesse James was said to be the more ruthless out of the two. But if you do a little more study on the two brothers, Frank James was actually the more ruthless. And Frank James did not die when they told us he died. And you might want to do a research on him and see who he changed his name to become. Now, I'm not going to tell you. I'll let you go research that for yourself. All I'll tell you is he started a public school system. He started a multi-conglomerate oil company, and I'll leave that there. But exploitation and greed have been the keys. Remember about 30 years ago when they started talking about and promoting globalism? You see, globalism is planning a political and economic strategy on a worldwide basis. What did we see in 2020? A worldwide system. They've been talking about one world religion, one world economics. So that's what globalism is. That's what globalism was always leading toward. But we don't understand it because crony capitalists told us globalism was an excellent thing. Well, it was an excellent thing for crony capitalists. It wasn't a good thing for the rest of the world. And see, capitalism is nothing more than mass production of goods in order for people to consume them. And see, when healthcare became a business, our health got worse. When politics became a business, our rights became non-existent. When church became a business, our spiritual world collapsed. See, everything has been about crony capitalism in this country. Crony capitalism is just rebranded communism. Now, how can I say that? There's a Russian author named Alexander Solzhenitsyn, and he said a communist system can be recognized by the fact that it spares the criminals and criminalizes the political opponent. And see, every industry has become profit above everything else in this country. And in the book Anti-Capitalistic Mentality, von Mises says that the entrepreneurs and capitalists owe their wealth to the people who patronize their business, and they lose it as soon as others are able to compete with them. So what these mega corporations do is bribe politicians to make it harder for others to compete. It goes back to what Solzhenitsyn said, especially smaller enterprises. And Mises goes on to say that, in a society based on rank, status, or caste, C-A-S-T-E, an individual station in life is fixed, and only in exceptional cases does a person rise or sink above it, below his or her station. Now, let's into that. Just so you know, the founding fathers were all members of the aristocrat class. I was going to say aristocracy, same thing, of aristocracy. And if you study history, aristocrats worldwide have always been heavily involved in slavery. In 2024, prison policy showed that the U.S. has the highest incarceration rate in the world. Now, that's amazing when you think that we have a smaller population than many of the other countries that were on that list. Now, guess what the inmates have to do in a lot of these prisons? They make a lot of the products that we buy and use daily. Now, check some of the major companies you purchase products and goods from and see where the products are made, or really made. Now, I'm not saying criminals should walk free, but paying them 3 cents an hour instead of paying people in society is exploitation. See, that's crony capitalism at work. That's slave labor at work. See, maximizing profits through exploitation. Let's say I was talking about Mises, right? Dr. Bruce Lipton. I'm a big fan of Dr. Lipton. And he calls it subconscious and subliminal programming at our conception in the mother's womb. Now, think about it. Look at your ancestors. How much better do we really live than them? Sure, consumerism allows us a few better creature comforts than our parents, but in the grand scheme of things, our economics hasn't matched the same value as our parents. They sold us on the idea that consumption was the key to happiness, when the real happiness came from building a business and building a family. They sold us on empowering them and their families for generations. We were told if we followed the rules, we would make it and have freedom. The only thing we got was more rules for us and more freedom for them. Just look at your immediate family. How many of you inherited a business, let alone a thriving one? How many of you received an inheritance worth millions? Now, look at your children and grandchildren and ask yourself how many of you can have built something that can be passed on to them once you're gone. See, the system they sold us has worked for them and their descendants, not for us. We have all heard of money laundering. Now the crony capitalist class is engaged in something called data laundering. I know many of you, probably none of you heard that yet. And what's that? The mega companies are dominating housing, our food, our jobs, and our communication. They're going to require biometrics to prevent fraud and for our convenience. And you will then be voluntarily, let me try to, how am I going to try to say this? You're going to voluntarily hand over your freedom in order to participate in society. And then the government can force them to give up your data. And now the U.S. government has warrant-free access, therefore bypassing the Fourth Amendment. They can do everything, they can see everything you do in real time. You see, a market economy is one where supply and demand are determined by the people instead of government control. And see, with communism, property is publicly owned and each person is paid according to the needs determined by government. Socialism, authoritarian control, means authoritarian control of all means of production. It doesn't mean equality. Get that out of your head. I don't care what your democratic socialist Cortez and Sanders say and your democratic socialist NAACP say. Yeah, y'all, I done talked enough about the NAACP. Y'all should know by now. A lot of your Black Panthers and all of that stuff, they believed in socialism. MLK believed in socialism. I don't know what it's going to take. It does not mean equality. but we still love them. And so it doesn't mean equality in the sense that politicians or anybody else promote it. It means equally poor. It means universal basic income. See, with feudalism, land was exchanged for service. What's different from what government does today? You paid your house off. So what? The feuds still own the land it sits on. How did they get ownership of the land? Racism is an economic system as well. It makes sure one class dominates economically and the other class submits. In reality, racism is a mental disease as well. Nepotism is an economic system where one class benefits economically and socially and the other class submits. Amazingly, communal systems are where people share responsibilities for sustainability. People choose to live together. They're not forced to live together. See, this system we have in this country, we're forced to live together because we have the haves and the have-nots. Think about the community you grew up in, the neighborhood you grew up in. Most of the people in that neighborhood look like you. You know why? Because your economics look the same. You can go argue with yourself. And utopian socialism, it was actually created by Charles Fourier. And if you remember, I actually wrote about Charles Fourier in the book, but hey, what do I know? And see, in utopian socialism, Fourier believed in something called philanthropies. And philanthropies are actually enclosed communities in identical units with shared spaces. It looks a little bit different today, but we have philanthropies all over. Apartments, townhouses, duplexes, patio homes, hotels, military barracks are all forms of philanthropies. And the new name for philanthropy is smart city or 15-minute city. Smart cities are enclosed systems. These communities share parks, pools, barbecue grills, and sometimes laundry rooms. See, in China right now, there is a apartment complex that houses over 30,000 residents. 30,000. It includes shops, restaurants, and other services so the people can live, work, and enjoy life without ever leaving the building. See, in this type of system, representatives were chosen to speak and act on behalf of the entire group. And between the years 1843 and 1858, I believe, 40 philanthropies were built in the United States. Now, look at how many apartment complexes and similar systems we have right now. Guess what else looks like a philanthropy? A prison. I just saw the other day that inmates in California have iPads. I don't even have an iPad. Cooperative communities and communal communities are almost identical. And I know a lot of people think I've gone straight extremist, and that's okay with me. My adult life has been one of continuing education. In reality for me, it's painful to keep reading and studying. It's become so painful that I don't even want to study or read anything many times anymore. But I still press on. And doing this has made people drop out of my life. I'm fine with that. I'd be lying if I said it didn't hurt initially, because it does. But I still press on. This society gives us a sanitized version of living, while a great majority of people struggle. They got us so focused on chasing money to survive that most people die without ever living. See, we're chasing capitalist lifestyles while the upper crust is operating as crony capitalists and playing by a separate set of rules. See, crony capitalists poison our air, our water, our food, and our medicine. They encourage college degrees over trades. Then they went to STEM subject areas, which negates trades. And now AI is taking over all the jobs that require degrees. And see, as long as technology replaced skilled trade people, those with degrees thought they had made the right decision. Now those with degrees are being replaced just the same. I remember being taught that I needed to develop something that no one could ever take from me. My Little League football coach who gave me that first job at Echo Drugs taught me that. Now I understand. You know, those with degrees have no skills and are almost being ostracized from society. They have what the degree says they have to offer. Recently, it was decided at the Department of Education that certain degrees would no longer be classified as professional. Degrees in teaching, what else was it? Physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech pathology, nurse practitioners, advanced nurse practitioners, physician assistants. Now, guess who occupies most of those positions? Women. The same group the feminist movement told to leave their men. See, when everyone had a skill, society worked because every person had to contribute. Everybody had something to offer. See, the degree created a situation where the only thing people had to exchange was their time, which was measured by what the system said it was worth. And we got sold on the idea of trading our time for fiat money that held no real value. Then the government threatened us with prison if we didn't turn in our gold to them. See, the dollar has lost 96% of its value since 1913, meaning your dollar is worth 4 cents today. In 1930, an ounce of gold was right under $21. An ounce of gold today is over $4,500. The government forced you to give it to them. See, they gave us fake money to replace it. And as soon as you turn your gold in, they jacked up the price of the gold so you couldn't even buy nothing back. But everybody wants to say, America, how great America is. America is a hellhole. They threatened us with prison. They sold us on capitalism. Then they stole our capital and concentrated in the hands of a select few. Prescott Bush was funding the dude over in Germany during World War II. Prescott Bush, George Bush Jr., granddaddy, and George Bush Sr., daddy, was funding the dude over in Germany during World War II. JFK's daddy became even more wealthier during World War II because of what he was doing. Y'all love JFK too. But they sold us on capitalism and then stole our capital. See, under this system of crony capitalism, everything is legal as long as you have the money to grease some politician's hand. If you can't pay the fee, you go to prison. Ever since the descendants of Esau and Japheth got together and took over, greed has never been satisfied. Since that time, every economic system they have ever created has always profited a select few enormously. Look at every system I mentioned earlier. Capitalism in a form in this country looks to be the most promising for all, but in the grand scheme, most of us have been locked out. The problem is that capitalism has never been practiced in its pure form. Look at our current situation with the data centers. The government is allowing these mega corporations to utilize the fresh water in the aquifers to run these centers. In Corpus Christi, they are running out of water while oil and petrochemical companies are exempted from fines for the 61 billion gallons of water they've used over the last 3 years. If a resident in Corpus Christi waters their grass right now, they will be assessed a $500 fine. Lake Corpus Christi is at 9% capacity because big corporate, through politicians, have used up the water. Here's the tip. Regardless of what side of the unit party your politician you voted for sits, they don't care about you. You ain't voting your way out of none of this. Stop participating in the voting system. It ain't worked yet. You ain't voting your way out of this. I don't care who you vote for. Kamala say she might throw her head in. It don't matter. Gavin Newsom say he might throw it. It don't matter. I mean, anything short of the Messiah coming back ain't gonna work for us. We've been locked out. They don't care about you. And in many places around this country, the same government forbids people from collecting rainwater. Who is this system benefiting? Some years back, I studied aquifers and watersheds to try and educate people on our drinking water and why they needed a water purifier. Not a water filter, and especially not bottled water for daily consumption. Most people didn't listen. They told me the system I was promoting was too expensive. Well, yeah, up front it is. But subsequent years, it's cheaper than every other system out there. It's cheaper than bottled water out there. I don't care which brand. You can buy the store brand. It's cheaper than that too. But you won't listen. But I studied this stuff, and I was out there doing seminars and promoting this stuff to people, but they told me I was crazy. You know, but like I said, I talked about using a water purifier. Most of the society doesn't listen, doesn't know, or don't care. But as I'm trying to talk about the water purifiers, guess what's in conversation now? All of the microplastics accumulating in our bodies. Where are the microplastics coming from? Those cheap plastic bottles. Society doesn't know or doesn't care. But if I say something, people dismiss it. Are all of us given that same access? Well, when we take a look at the Forbes 500 every year, because that's something I used to do all the time, does the list really change? Has it really changed in the last few decades? Is that equal opportunity? Is it pure capitalism when mega giants work hand in hand with politicians to do what they can to increase their market share while intentionally destroying a small business owner? See, in this country, as a people, we've always been told we make up between 12 and 13% of society. See, right now, 12.5% of politicians are black, which mirrors our population. So why does our political makeup look like our population, but not our economic makeup? See, if capitalism mirrored our population, we would have 62 black Americans in the Forbes 500 list, but we don't even have 10. Now, I'm not naive to think we should have 250 or even 100, but we don't even have our 12.5% that mirrors our population. So, some years back, I remember seeing a guy who had given billions away, but ironically, he never appeared on the Forbes list of billionaires. That means that even that list is faulty. They sold us on the idea that capitalism lifted everyone, yet 92% of the population is still not in the capitalist class. During slavery, we had more blacks participating in the economic top tier of this country than we do now, although most of them that were participating were slave owners as well. Speaking of slavery, other day, took my wife's car to the shop, and while I was waiting, me and a gentleman struck up a conversation. He was from Louisiana, which is also where my mother's side of the family is from. Well, my mother's side is from Northern. And he and his family never lost track of their Native American Indian heritage. And they're in court right now in the state of Oklahoma trying to reclaim their stolen land. See, many of us have heard of Nearest Green, the slave who created Jack Daniels and never made a profit because it was stolen from him by a white man. Well, this guy is literally related to Nearest Green. See, this system has done nothing but exploit people since Europeans came here. All they do is change the name of the economic system once they run it dry. Feudalism exploited people to benefit a few. Socialism exploits people to benefit a few. Communism exploits people to benefit a few. Crony capitalism exploits people to benefit a few. Democratic socialism exploits people to benefit a few. We don't have capitalism in this country. We have crony capitalism. We saw all of these black folks get upset about the black jobs comment. Oh, here's a tip. We have no black jobs. We have jobs that we rent from white people. If we had black jobs, we could leave them to our children. They are all white jobs that whites don't want to do. Pure capitalism gives everyone an equal shot, although not equal results. The system doesn't give everyone equal access. It never has. We were told if we followed the rules, we would be free. Well, they lied. We've been following the rules since the days of slavery. During slavery, money and economics were monopolized. After slavery, when blacks built their own successful economic towns and cities, the system destroyed them in order to maintain the economic monopoly. In the 50s and 60s, when blacks had built again, they used pieces of paper so we would no longer build our own economics in order to maintain their monopoly forever. During COVID, the system destroyed small business owners to solidify their monopoly. I was watching something the other day, and a gentleman was trying to bribe another man. And the one he was trying to bribe told him he couldn't be bought and he would burn it. And, he told the guy, "You're going to burn to hell." The guy responded, "Well, maybe later, but I don't worry about that right now." This is literally the mentality of a lot of people who have sold their soul in this country. They tell us capitalism was what built slavery, but capitalism wasn't a thing until 1854, right before communism was introduced. Capitalism beat out communism because openly saying government controls all of your production didn't go over well publicly. However, socialism first appeared in 1660. Ironically, nepotism also appeared in 1660. Think that was on accident? Amazingly, socialism became a thing after feudalism, which ran from the 9th through the 15th centuries. The word elite was first recorded in 1823. See, we've been told that capitalism makes us free and allows us freedom of choice. Oh, really? Slavery restricted everything black people could do in this country. Once slavery was abolished, the system created new laws and rules to restrict black movement and access. Today, we live under so many oppressive laws, and they keep telling us we are free. You want to own your house? Nope. Even after you pay it off, you still rent it from the government. You want to own your car? Nope. You pay it off and you still have to pay a yearly fee to the government if you want to continue to drive it. Unless you have an older vehicle that's basically grandfathered, your vehicle has to pass emissions. But corporate-owned trucks don't. You want to fish and hunt? You have to pay the government. You want to travel to another country? You need government permission. You want to make modifications, upgrades, or major repairs to your home? You need government permission. How many other things do we need permission for? Free people don't need permission. When I wrote my book, one of the books I read was one titled The Pattern Nation by a guy named Henry Rickson. And Rickson said socialism was despotic. And the other way socialism works is to give up personal liberty, because if you leave people free, you cannot keep them equal. They tell us we're a capitalistic society, but looking at everything, we are more of a socialistic society already and have always been. Prices are outrunning paychecks. And your president said, somebody asked him the other day, was he concerned about Americans' financial situation? This jackass literally said, "I don't care about Americans' financial situation, but I still got people out here supporting this dude. He just said he don't care about you, and y'all still out here trying to defend him." The wage gap has widened to its biggest level since 2015. You see, pure capitalism, when pure capitalism, I guess I should say, is in charge, rule changes benefit everyone. In crony capitalism, they change the rules continually and then tell us they change it to make it better for us, when in reality, it's a way to benefit themselves more than anything else. But they hold carrots in front of us to make us work harder. Those who promote socialism don't understand what socialism looks like. Socialism always has a dominant economic class and a survival class. What do we currently have in this country? 49 billionaires in this country got their wealth through private health care. But many people in America are struggling to afford health care costs. Isn't it amazing that capitalist Bill Gates is releasing deer ticks in the farm so we can become allergic to eating red meat? Why? Because the keto and carnivore diets are proving that more red meat consumption is making people healthier. Sickness and hunger make people do immoral things, just in order to survive. Now, they don't want us healthy because sick and weak people are easier to control. Senator Rick Scott, who's also a former governor down in Florida, was once the CEO of the largest for-profit hospital system in this country. I'm not going to mention the name. He was forced to resign I believe around 1997, but he still owned 10 million shares of stock in the system, worth $350 million at the time of his resignation. Now, you can look it up for yourself. Before, like I said, before his resignation. In 2022, I was in one of those hospitals, and a doctor friend in another state hadn't talked to me for a while, and when I finally called her after 6 weeks, because her and her husband were concerned about me, and but I couldn't talk for 2 weeks after the initial surgery. And so I finally called her, and she knew exactly what hospital I was in before I even told her. When I told her what I was dealing with, she literally told me on the phone while I was in there, I needed to get out of there. Me, my mother, and my brother-in-law were all in the same hospital at the same time. I was the only one who came out alive. In the book, Failure of Free Society, George Fitzhugh says socialism is the best form of slavery. Now, Fitzhugh goes on to say that, let me pull it up because I'll just try to say it off the top of my head. And like I said, I read that book, I read that book before I wrote mine. And touch up on it every now and then. Let me pull it up again. He goes on to say that selfishness is the only motive of a free society. I disagree. Free society allows us to determine what we will exchange and who we will exchange it with. See, in the John Locke is another guy I read also, John Locke, and he has something called a social contract. And he says that creatures of the same species, born to all the same advantages of nature and the use of the same faculties, should also be equal one amongst another without subordination or subjection, unless Lord and Master of them all should, by any manifest declaration of his will, set one above another and confer to him by an evident and clear appointment an undoubted right to dominion and sovereignty. Now, what this economic system has produced is a small group who have asserted themselves as our lords and masters. These other economic systems direct us into the direction they want us to go. See, I'm a big fan of free enterprise. However, what we have in this country is restricted enterprise. See, because of the creation of the middle class, they told us the benefit of capitalism was available to all. The middle class was built on consumerism to make it look like the tide lifted every ship. However, just like slavery, we still have a class of haves and have-nots. What's the statement? Power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Once again, from the book The Pattern Nation, Rickson mentions a man named Macaulay. And Macaulay said, we're all socialists now, and that many men of a good and even a noble type have been socialists. See, that's the end of that. While they were putting down communism and capitalism in the 19th century, they were strengthening their socialism construct. It was a misdirection tactic. All of the economic systems that end in ism were created in Europe. All of the economic systems that end in ism were created in Europe. And reading Rickson, he said liberty is not the chief design of a despotic government, but right management is, and claims of personal freedom must give way to the great primary purpose. And what term do we keep on hearing? UBI, Universal Basic Income. See, Rickson continues and says, if the new policy prevail, the charm of freedom and personal independence will fade away. Now, into that. Just the other day, a congressman was talking about how they are living, trying to pass a bill that keeps them from avoiding prosecution for insider trading. He said they work 140 days out of the year and only earn $175,000. And yet, people still vote for these jackasses. This system, since Europeans came here, has been nothing but parasites feeding off a host. The citizens have always been the host, and politicians and their corporate buddies have always been the leeches. One thing you can never do is negotiate with a parasite. Since parasites know this, they set up the voting system to give us the illusion of choice. Walmart or Amazon. Right? Coke or Pepsi, illusion of choice. Lowe's or Home Depot, illusion of choice. There are choices in everything, more than two. Depending on where you live in the country, Wine Gardens owns a grocery chain in your area. Doesn't say Wine Gardens anymore, but Wine Gardens was a grocery store chain when I was a little boy. They never gave up the land. They just rented out. Randall's, Safeway, Albertsons, all those are Wine Gardens properties. But illusion of choice. Democrat or Republican, illusion of choice. Why are we always only given two choices? There are always more choices. Capitalism is nothing more than a rebranded version. Well, let me stop. Crony capitalism is nothing more than a rebranded version of socialism. Hey, I'm going to be honest with you. I once believed in this economic system. I believed in it. I did everything I could to study, and I still study. And, y'all have heard me mention in the past how me and my economics teacher in high school had a disagreement about the economic system in this country. Me and my professor in college had a disagreement about the economic system in this country. Because I thoroughly believed in this system. I believed in this economic system. And that's when I didn't know better. Every system that's been created by a European has always benefited Europeans greatly. All of the economic systems that end in ism, as I said, were created by Europeans. Every system, not just economic, every system that ends in ism was created in Europe. Y'all heard me mention nepotism, racism, created in Europe. The economic system in the Bible was one built on love, fellowship, and cooperation, not exploitation. All of the ism systems have a hierarchy. All of them exploit. There has always been a small group earning boatloads and the rest of society is on sinking lifeboats. That's why even in this country, your vote without money behind it carries no weight. Even though I don't always mention it, practically all of what I talk about is Bible based. The Bible does not condone exploitation, which is the foundation and continuation of this country. Years ago, it was another book that opened my eyes. And the name of that book was The New Confessions of an Economic Hitman. Everything left in me that supported the U.S. version of capitalism died in me at the conclusion of that book. I read that book in early 2021, right before we had the Texas freeze. I still have to live and participate in this system, but it has failed us. But that has always been the objective, to let us build monsters of a lifestyle, separate us from the economics that built it, and then let the monster turn around and eat us. AI is going to destroy this system for the masses. The big money movers are going to increase their income exponentially like they did during COVID. However, this time there will be no recovery for the masses. Household debt has reached $18.8 trillion this year. 42% of people say they expect to die in debt. Is that a system that uplifts all people? This is not freedom. This is slavery. Now, remember what George Fitzhugh said. Socialism is the best form of slavery. BlackRock capitalist CEO Larry Fink said that they plan on taking money out of our personal pensions and savings account to build our prison. Data centers. The uber capitalist class has all the money and they are just like common thieves, taken from those who have way less. Many people have struggled to save, and now the crony capitalist class wants to steal what you have to turn you into a feudal slave to serve them. This goes back to what crony capitalist Klaus Schwab said in the book COVID-19 and Great Reset. You will own nothing and be happy. And I'm going to finish that sentence because BlackRock is literally stealing everything from you. I'll talk to you later.